Is Auburn for real? That's the name of the video, or at least this post-game analysis, because I think it's a question in a lot of people's minds. My cat's climbing in my dresser. Is Auburn for real? That's a question in a lot of people's minds. And I think the answer is yes. I think they're a real threat to Alabama if they can run on Alabama. If they can't run on Alabama, I don't trust Sean White to carry the team. But if they can find a running game, Sean White's a good quarterback when he has a running game. Going along with him, Florida State just scored and are going for a 2-point conversion. Hang on, real quickly. They called a timeout. If you're watching the game at the same time as I was, then you know what I'm talking about. But close game here throughout the entire game. 22-22 it looks like at halftime. Ole Miss leading. They both scored 7 in the third, so 27-29. But then Auburn with 13 fourth quarter points sealed the deal. If I told you a team only had 105 rushing yards but had more total yards, then you knew that the other team did bad. But if I told you the other team had 307 yards running and 247 passing, then how many passing yards does Ole Miss have? Or the other team, I guess. 465 passing yards by Chad Kelly in a loss, a double score loss. I think a big thing of this, first off, he was 36 for 59. They asked him to throw way too much. The run game was trash, 9 for 35. I believe Akeem Judd, who I believe is their number one back, I don't know, they have a kind of a confusing back situation. Chad Kelly had the most carries, 11 for 40. When your running game's not going, they went to their passing game, and that happened a lot. They went to their passing game 60 times. They didn't get it. They went to their passing game 60 times. Francois just got murdered again. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm kind of switching in between games here, but they threw the ball 60 times. Chad Kelly, there's only so much he can do. He's a very talented quarterback, but there's only so much he can do. One thing Auburn did very, very well, their defense is very, very talented in many ways, but one of the things they did really well, the long for Chad Kelly was 28 yards. He threw for 465 yards, but the longest pass that he had, I'm checking on this because it just doesn't sound realistic, me saying it over and again in my head. Longest pass he had was 28 yards. This is an Ole Miss team that had big plays against Bama's defense. That's unbelievable. Sure, he had a good amount of 20-yard passes. He also had a 20-yard run in there. They never had a play over 30 yards on offense. And they still put up 570 total yards. But Auburn's defense was making them earn it. They weren't just going to give them the big play. They were going to let them get the small passes underneath and do all those things that they're not really. Ole Miss isn't normally accustomed to doing because they just want to take the deep ball most of the time. Okay, so some stats. Auburn's running back Cameron Petaway, I believe, 30 carries, 236 yards to score. Kerryon Johnson, 1142 and 2 scores. Passing Sean White, 15 for 22. Very accurate day. They didn't ask him to do too much. He did enough. 247 yards, touchdown, didn't turn the ball over. Great game by Sean White, in my opinion. Receiving, Darius Slayton, 353, no score. Kerryon Johnson, 243, no score. Eli Store, whenever I can't read my own handwriting, I just go quickly to here. Eli Stove, 537 and a no score. Jalen Harris, 115. He had the lone score through the air. 4 for 4 kicking, ended up actually being the difference maker in the game. The 12 points that came from kicking, if they didn't have those, they would have lost the game. So, good job by the kicker. 50-yard punt return for them, but it was not returned for a touchdown. Interestingly enough, Ole Miss had a 49-yard punt return, but also did not return it for a touchdown, or did they? Did they return theirs for a touchdown? Because it looks like... No, they didn't return theirs. No, they didn't. They did not return their... No, they did not return theirs for a touchdown, so... Ole Miss side, Chad Kelly, 11 carries, 40 yards. I already mentioned that. Akeem Judd, 935. I already mentioned Chad Kelly's stats. No. Receiving for them, Evan Ingram, 995 and a touchdown. Quincy Adeboye, 476. Demoria Demoria, Stringfellow, 340 and a score. They need to. I'm sorry. Some of these names though. DeMarcus. Okay, that one's not that bad. I just can't read my handwriting. But DeMarcus Lodge, 339 to score. Kicking 3 for 3. 307 rushing yards for Auburn. 105 to Ole Miss. 247 passing yards for Auburn. 465 for Ole Miss. 554 total yards. 570 for Ole Miss. 554 obviously for Auburn. Third downs. They were 50% for Auburn. And about 40%, 42, 40 to 45, like 35 to 45% range, somewhere in there. I didn't really do the math. Penalties, 4 penalties, 30 yards for Auburn, 6 penalties, 35 yards. Didn't really play a big impact in the game. In the end, just Auburn's rushing attack is the difference maker in the game. They just pound the ground, and they're going to keep pounding it at you. They have a pretty good offensive line, and their defense is very solid. A very underrated defense in my mind. One of the top 10 defenses in college football in my mind. So if you're an Auburn fan, I'm sure you're happy to hear that. So final score, 40 to 29. Auburn picking up the victory. Another nice win for Auburn. And that game against Bama is going to be very, very crucial for them. How many games have the Auburn's lost twice, but they've lost to 2 good teams, right? Who'd their other loss go to? They lost to Clemson, I know. But who else? Leave that in the comment section. I'm blanking. I kept up with Auburn football fairly well. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. I know it's a little shorter than most of my other post game, but I've mentioned this in the past too. I have to get these done because it is late at night. It's already past 11 o'clock for me. And I need to get them done. First off, this game right behind me, you can't see, but can you see the tip of my TV? No, you can't see. But needs to finish very quickly because I have no need to do one about it. But if you enjoyed the video, I'm blabbering on here. If you enjoyed the video, like it. If you enjoy content like this and want to see more, subscribe. That like really helps me, so I really appreciate it. If you do that, share your opinion down below. You're an Auburn fan. I believe your team is for real. I believe your team has a real chance of beating Alabama if they can run on them, which is obviously not an easy task. But I think if they get that running game going, then Sean White can mix in a few passes there, and I think Auburn has a realistic chance to win that game. And then Ole Miss fans, what happened to you guys? A very bad second half team, and once again it kind of struck you guys. Having a lead all the way through 3 quarters. 4th quarter, give it up once again. I think Ole Miss is a talented football team. Their defense definitely needs work. Their running game needs work. Their offensive line needs work. But they have a good quarterback in Chad Kelly, good receivers. They have pieces there, but they're definitely pieces aren't necessarily fitting right. But that's all I have to say. Leave your opinion down below, and I'll see you guys later.